Yo, what up, Cooley? Just thought I'd make a quick video to show you things about bikes that you should know. It'd probably help you out a lot easier than writing all this shit out. Anyway, you said that you were going to spend about 200 to 300 or 250 to 350, I'm not sure what. So this is my girl's ride. She got this for about 225, I think, through Craigslist, and you'll see a bunch of these kind of bikes on Craigslist. This is like a 1980 Univega. If you're gonna go that route, you want to go like with things like name brands like Fugo or Univega or um, Trek sometimes make those old bikes. Cannondale sometimes makes those old bikes. You'll find some stuff on Craigslist that's worth it, and they're usually all steel, so they're a little heavier. And then a couple of things that you'll get with these are like down tube shifters, so all your shifters will be down here. So if you want to shift gears, you're gonna have to like take your hands off the steering wheel and change them down here and shift. I put these regular type of like cyclocross brakes on them, but they usually have like those drop brakes that are down here. And that's just to kind of help her reach it because it's a little big for her. These bikes are usually generally like, they're found in garages, so they're pretty good shape, like you want to check the teeth of these gears down here and make sure that they're sharp and they're not rounded off. You want to like make sure that the pedals spin without any issue. You won't find any like major gearing. You'll get these bikes with about like 6 to 8 gears in the back, and you'll probably get 2 to 3 in the front. You don't want to mess around too much with the front on these old bikes because a lot of times the front derailleur is like shitty. We lucked out with this one. This one's a pretty decent one and it shifts pretty good. And you can tell the reason it probably shifts pretty good is because this thing was probably bought and then never ridden again. And so, I mean, it works. It's got like decent brakes on it, but this is what like 250 bucks will probably get you on like Craigslist. And it's not a bad way to go to start off biking, to be honest with you. You get a general idea of whether you even like doing the damn thing or not. It's not a big investment, and these rides, they're steel, so steel rides are like the only material that'll last almost a lifetime. Steel bikes just kind of last forever. Aluminum bikes have a shelf life of about, I'd say, 5 to 10 years. After that, just the stress of riding the bike causes this shit to just kind of break. And then carbon is like, I mean, you're not even in the range of carbon fiber, but carbon fiber, that shit's, I would never buy anything used carbon fiber wise, because those things have a tendency of, when they break, they kind of shatter like glass. You don't see it. Like if steel were to break, you'd see a dent in it where it's about to bend down and break off, and you'd be able to stop your bike. Like your bike will definitely let you know that shit's going down with it. But you hardly ever see that with steel, whereas carbon fiber, it'll look new as the day it came, and it'll just shatter on you if there's been some sort of damage, like someone dropping on it or falling on a ride. It won't look like there'll be any damage, but you could never be too sure. You got to get those things checked out. So anyway, this is 250 for a geared bike. This is a 6-speed, and it's got two chain rings in the front. It's a pretty decent ride. But for about 350, you can go onto a couple websites and kind of get a fixed gear ride. Is that in frame? I think that's in frame. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and a fixed gear ride is basically what you see every kid nowadays riding their bikes, and like hipsters or whatever you want to call them. They're single speed. That means that there's no gears down here. And these, I think, I actually had Nate buy one of these. Reason being is you don't have to worry about any of the derailleur stuff happening. These bikes are super easy to work on. They're usually steel, so they'll last a long time. The only problem with having no derailleurs is that you gotta definitely pump. So you gotta work harder on these bikes, especially if you're going uphill. Yeah, you kind of struggle with it. So this is like my cruising around the city type bike, like this isn't a racing type bike. I don't take this out with like super serious riders, but I can ride this thing pretty hard. I do ride it in Whittier, and Whittier's hilly as hell, and I'm going up and down Painter with it. I ride this to work all the time too. I got a rack on it, and these things kind of come in handy when you get a bike if you want to just put shit on the back, so you're not carrying a backpack all the time. This is a fixed gear, so that means that when my bike goes forward, the pedals kind of go forward. I don't know if you see that moving or not, which means you can never stop pedaling on these fixed gear rides. You always have to pedal, and you can actually pedal backwards and the bike will move backwards. That's how you see a lot of people brake without any brakes on their bike. They basically stop their legs while they're riding, and that's what kind of stops the bike. But I always run a front brake because you never know when idiots are being idiots in their cars, and you might be an idiot sometimes too. Like there's been times where I've been drinking, and you just don't want to fucking deal with not having a brake. But yeah, this cost me about $380 online, and I spruced it up and put some shit on there that I like. But you can probably get yourself a fixed gear on Craigslist for about $200, and it'll be in pretty decent shape. These things actually have flip-flop hubs, so you can actually take the wheel off in the back and turn the wheel, and on one side it'll be fixed like it is here, and on the other side it'll be a freewheel. So those are the types of bikes where you can basically turn the pedal while the bike is sitting like this, and you know what I mean? Like you can actually coast on the bike. It's probably what you're accustomed to. And they have single speeds like that too, and they kind of look identical as fixies. The only difference is, like I said, is down here in the back, and there's like a hub, and either it's locked, and when it's locked it's fixed, and if it's not locked and it spins one way but locked the other way, that means it's a freewheel, so that when you put pressure it'll go forward, but if you stop pedaling it'll just coast, and you won't fall off your bike. But these are legit investments too, if you're just going to be using it to cruise around town or go by the beach with your girl or whatever. Congratulations, by the way. I never got to say that in person. I know it's not in person, but you hear my voice anyway. So yeah, there's that, and altogether this thing cost me about $500, but it's a beast. And like I said, no maintenance on these suckers. All you got to do really is just keep your chain clean and just kind of oil it up. These are great starter bikes, and like I said, I got Nate on one, and he was stoked on it until he hurt his back, and then I don't know, he just doesn't ride as much as he used to. But yeah, really cool bikes. And don't go down with that whole twister trend. That's bullshit. That's just people hating on people riding bikes for no reason. And this is like a legit road bike. This is my closest thing that I have to a legit road bike. This thing cost me about $450 used, and it had a carbon fork that I replaced because, like I said, I want my shit to be new. I don't want any like old things to just shatter on me without me knowing. But it's an aluminum bike. It's pretty light. It's almost as light as my fixed gear, but this thing obviously has like a bunch of shit here that one doesn't. So just the fact that they're about the same weight is pretty rad. These things, like the shifter isn't down here. These are brifters. They're called like brake shifters. So in actuality, the way that these things shift is, if I want to shift it one way, I push the brake lever in one way, and then there's a button here, and I'm pretty sure you can't see it, but there's a button here, and if I want to shift the other way, I just click that button and it shifts the other way. This way I never have to take my hands off the steering, off the handlebars. And newer, better brifters, like these are like a low-end brifters, but high-end brifters, they come with like buttons so that they're just like nicer levers, really. I mean, you could like, they come with like these pedals where you can clip your shoe into, and it kind of locks your foot into the pedal, and you can kind of twist your foot off to get it off, and it's almost like a snowboard binding, so that you get like full torque when you're riding these suckers. It's a pretty rad bike. I'm pretty stoked on this, but I only take it out when I'm riding with like a bunch of other like legit riders. A cool website to go to if you want to buy a brand new bike and you don't want to go the Craigslist route is bikesdirect.com. And bikesdirect.com is like this Taiwanese company that basically manufactures all these bikes for like Trek and Cannondale and all the rest of them. But what they did is they went out and bought all these old bike manufacturer names, like Motobecane. Motobecane used to be like a really popular name, and you'll probably see some of them in Craigslist in like the 70s and 80s, old bike frames. But they kind of went out of business in the late 80s. So this company, Bikes Direct, went out and just bought the name, the copyright to the name, and these frames that they build for like Trek and whoever else, they just rebrand them with these other brands and sell them for like half the cost, and they have like pretty decent components on them. Some of them will have brifters like these. And like I said, these are pretty sweet. You do want to, like, if you're gonna get like a road bike like this, I don't suggest getting the ones that have down tube shifters because they're just a pain in the ass. Unless you're just cruising, they're just a pain in the ass to shift with, especially if you're like going uphill and you know, they're hard. They're just difficult to just shift with. You gotta like take your hand off, and sometimes you lose your balance when you're pedaling and applying force. And I don't know. I don't suggest them, but at the same time, they're usually cheaper because these things cost, these drifters, these brake shifters, they cost about $150 upwards to like $600 just for the shifters. Nothing, not the bike, just the shifters themselves. Whereas those shifters that you shift from down here, they sell for like $20, dude. So those yeah, that's pretty much it. When you do buy your bike, you definitely want to make sure that your saddle is comfy. If it's not a big expense. You can probably spend like $20-$30 and get one that fits you. Everybody's different, so everyone's saddle kind of fits them differently. You want to make sure that all your touch points are like comfortable. So you want to make sure your handlebars are wide as your shoulders. These are 44s, they're bigger than usual because I'm like a bigger dude. But you'd probably fit in like a 40 or a 42. And then you want to make sure that the pedals are comfortable. Some pedals have like spikes underneath, and they're cool for like Nikes, like thick Nikes, but if you're riding in like Chucks, there's no sole underneath them. So that shit will like eat right into your foot, and it just sucks sometimes. Yeah, and then just make sure you got your lights and make sure you got your helmet, man, and you should be good to go. I don't know what else to tell you, but those are your options, I'd say. So yeah, bikesdirect.com is a good website. Nashbar.com is another good website. That's Nash, N-A-S-H, like Steve Nash. They're kind of like in the same realm as Bikes Direct, but they sell like all sorts of stuff, but they also sell complete bikes, whereas Bike Direct just sells like complete bikes. If you're going to go to the Bikes Direct website, they have a bike called the Moto Bikini Mirage Sport, and that's very similar to something like this, but it's about $400 brand new, and it has these Sora shifters, and it has like the Sora derailleurs, and the front derailleur and the back derailleur, and they're usually about 16 to 24 gears in total, which will let you go up and down the hills no problem. The only thing that sucks about those bikes usually are the wheels. So when you do buy a bike, any bike, Craigslist, brand new off the internet, whatever it may be, if you're not buying it from a bike shop, take your wheels in to get them trued. I mean, you can learn how to do those yourself later on, but make sure you get them trued by a professional, because these spokes need to be tensioned, and if there's not enough tension on these things, sometimes they'll just toggle on you, and the fucking wheel will just bend on you, and it's just not fun. I mean, it hasn't happened to me yet, but I've seen it happen to people, and you know, it's their fault really, because they didn't get the shit fixed. I definitely advise you to go to a bike shop if possible, man. The money is definitely, it's unheard of, yeah, I realize that. Like, my first bike only cost me $200, and I'm rebuilding it right now, actually. But it sounds weird for me to say you don't want to spend any less than like $400, but $400 will get you a pretty decent ride usually. One where you don't have to worry about the parts on the bike, and you won't have to worry about your safety on it. The cheaper you go, I would move over to the fixed range stuff, just because there's less components on it, so it's usually cheaper, but they're still quality bikes. Yeah, so yeah, I don't know. I hope that helps, man. I don't know what else to tell you. All right, peace.